Look, I have been working at the Crimson Pits for 17 cycles now. 17. That is a long time to watch idiots get torn apart for the entertainment of even bigger idiots who pay good credits to see it happen. My name is Vrock, and I am what you would call a corrections facilitator. That is the fancy term. The real term? I am a glorified babysitter for the galaxy's worst criminals, making sure they do not escape before their scheduled dismemberment. And let me tell you something. I have seen it all. Roxians with forearms and acid spit. Ilnorians who could regenerate limbs in minutes. Hell, I even saw a Grimlock once, one of those walking tank species from the outer reaches, you know? The kind that could probably headbutt through a blast door. They all ended up the same way, though. Dead. Very, very dead. So when they dragged in specimen number 7439, I did not even bother looking up from my datapad. Just another poor soul about to become entertainment. Just another day at the office, right? Wrong. So wrong. The transport shuttle arrived on a second-day morning. I remember because I was drinking my third cup of Jezik brew, which is this absolutely disgusting stimulant drink that tastes like battery acid mixed with regret. But it keeps you awake during the night shift, so you choke it down. Anyway, I hear the usual commotion. Chains rattling. Guards shouting. The standard procedure. Then I heard something I did not expect. Laughter. Deo! Not the maniacal kind, mind you. Not the I have lost my mind and I am about to murder everyone kind. No, this was genuine amusement. Like someone had just heard the funniest joke in the universe. I looked up from my datapad, curiosity getting the better of me, and that is when I saw him. Specimen 7439. The human. Now, I had heard of humans before. Who had not? They were that weird species from some backwater planet in the Orion Spur. Earth? Dirt? Something like that. They had just joined the Galactic Council about 50 cycles ago, give or take. Nobody really paid them much attention. They were not particularly strong, not particularly fast. No natural armor, no venom, no psychic abilities. Just soft. Pink and brown and beige and soft. So why was one here? I pulled up his file on my datapad while the guards processed him. Let me read you the highlights, because oh boy, this was good. Name, Jake Mercer. Age, 32 standard cycles. Crime, assault on a council dignitary, destruction of property, and get this, public urination. Yes, you heard that right. Public urination. This moron had apparently gotten drunk at some fancy diplomatic function, punched a Valorian ambassador in the face, broke a priceless sculpture, and then, for his grand finale, he relieved himself in a decorative fountain. The punishment? Death by combat in the Crimson Pits. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Look, I am not a monster. I do not enjoy watching people die. But I am also not naive. The arena does not care about your feelings. It cares about blood and spectacle. And this human? He was going to provide plenty of the former and probably none of the latter. They brought him into the holding area, and I got my first real look at him. He was underwhelming. About 2 meters tall, which is average for most species. Lean build. Not muscular like a Throxian or thick-skinned like a Boldnar. Just ordinary. Brown hair, blue eyes, and this ridiculous grin on his face like he was at a party instead of a death sentence facility. "Hey there," he said, waving at me with both hands even though they were shackled. "Nice place you got here. Very red. Really committed to the whole Crimson Pits aesthetic, huh?" I stared at him. The guards stared at him. Even the other prisoners in nearby cells stared at him. "You do realize you are going to die, correct?" I said, keeping my voice flat. He shrugged. Actually shrugged. "Yeah, probably. But hey, at least it will be interesting, right? Better than rotting in some cell for the next 50 years. One of the guards, a massive Kelnorian named Brux, snorted. "This one will not last 5 minutes against a Razorwing. I give him 3 minutes, tops." Jake looked at Brooks with genuine interest. Razorwing? That sounds cool. What is it, like a bird? A big bird? Please tell me it is a giant angry bird, because that would make my day. It is a genetically enhanced predator with talons that can slice through titanium armor, I explained, wondering why I was even bothering. It stands 4 meters tall and weighs approximately 600 kilograms. Its beak can crush bone, and it moves faster than most species can track with their eyes. Okay, so definitely not a fun bird. Got it. Jake nodded like I had just explained the rules of a game, not the method of his impending death. Any weak spots? You know, for scientific purposes. Brooks laughed, a deep rumbling sound. The human has jokes. I will enjoy watching you die, little one. Thanks, I think. That is, surprisingly supportive in a horrifying way. Jake grinned again, that same infuriating grin. We processed him through the system. Took his biometric data, assigned him a cell, gave him the standard orientation. Well, standard for everyone except him, apparently. Most prisoners spend the orientation period silent, contemplating their mortality, maybe crying a little. Not Jake Mercer? Oh no. He asked questions. So many questions. So, do I get a weapon, or is it more of a bare hands situation? You receive basic equipment based on your physiology. In your case, probably a short blade and light armor. Light armor, fantastic. Nothing says I am about to die quite like light armor. Can I get a theme song, though? Like when I enter the arena, can we play something epic? No. What about a catchphrase? Every good fighter needs a catchphrase. This is not entertainment for you, human. This is execution. Tomato, tomato. Oh wait, that does not work when you say it out loud. Never mind. I assigned him to Cell Block 7, Section D, which was reserved for condemned fighters awaiting their first match. The cells were not terrible, all things considered. 3 meters by 3 meters, a sleeping platform, a waste disposal unit, and a small viewport that looked out onto the arena floor. Most prisoners found the viewport to be psychological torture, watching previous fighters get butchered, knowing they were next. I figured the human would break down once reality set in. Again, I was wrong. The first night I was doing my rounds when I heard singing, actual singing. I followed the sound to Jake's cell and found him lying on his sleeping platform, hands behind his head, belting out some human song about a road and taking it. His voice was not terrible, actually. Kind of pleasant, in an annoying way. Excuse me, I said through the comm system. Some of us are trying to work. He sat up, looking completely unbothered. Oh, sorry. I get musical when I am nervous. Bad habit. Hey, question for you. That fight earlier today? The one with the Throxian and the Blade Worm? That was brutal. Does that happen every day? Yes, multiple times per day. You will be in that arena within the next 3 days. Cool. He nodded rapidly. So, theoretically speaking, if someone were to, I do not know, win their fight, what happens then? You would receive medical treatment and be sent back to your cell to await your next fight. And if someone kept winning? I paused. It was rare, but not unheard of. If a fighter wins 10 consecutive matches, they earn their freedom. It has happened 4 times in the pit's history. 4 times. See, those are pretty good odds, out of approximately 40,000 fighters over 2 centuries. Okay, less good odds. But still, 4 people did it. That means it is possible. He was getting excited now, pacing his small cell. What species were they? The winners? I pulled up the records. 2 Grimlocks, 1 Valorian Battlemaster, and 1 Kelnorian Berserker. Were any of them fun-sized like me? No, they were all apex predators of their respective species. Well, there is a first time for everything. He was smiling again. Always smiling. Thanks for the chat. I did not catch your name. Vrock. Vrock. Cool name. Very strong, very authoritative. I am Jake, but you probably knew that already. Nice to meet you, Vrock. What kind of condemned criminal was polite to their jailer? I left him there, singing again, and tried to focus on my other duties. But I kept thinking about him. About that smile. About the complete lack of fear. Over the next 2 days, Jake became something of a phenomenon among the staff. Not because he was impressive, mind you, but because he was so human. And by that I mean weird. He would strike up conversations with anyone who walked by his cell. Guards, cleaning drones, other prisoners. He would tell jokes, share stories about his planet, ask about ours. He treated the entire situation like he was on vacation instead of awaiting execution. The other prisoners reacted differently. Some ignored him, some mocked him. But a very few, seemed almost hopeful, like his attitude was contagious. There was this old Bolgnar in the cell next to him, a grizzled veteran of 12 arena matches, which was practically unheard of. His name was Grant, and he had not spoken to anyone in cycles. Just sat in his cell, waiting for the inevitable. But Jake got him talking. So, Grant, my man, 12 fights. That is incredible. You are like the Muhammad Ali of alien death matches. Jake was leaning against the wall, separating their cells, talking through the ventilation grate. Grant's gravelly voice rumbled back. I do not know this, Muhammad Ali. Oh, he was this legendary fighter from Earth, the greatest boxer who ever lived. Fast, strong, and he talked so much trash it was beautiful. He would tell his opponents exactly how he was going to beat them, and then he would do it. Pure poetry. I am not fast. I am not strong anymore. I am old. But you are here. You are still here, Grant. 12 fights. Most people do not make it past one. You must have some kind of trick, some strategy. There was a long pause. Then, I survived by not giving up. Even when every instinct tells me to lie down and die, I stand up. See. That is exactly what I am talking about. That is the spirit. Jake sounded genuinely excited. Okay, so here is my plan. I am going to go into that arena and I am going to give them the greatest show they have ever seen. Maybe I win, maybe I do not. But either way, they are going to remember me. You will die, human. Accept it. Maybe. Probably. But what if I do not? The enthusiasm in Jake's voice was undiminished. What if I am the weird exception? The statistical anomaly? The guy who should not have won but did anyway? I was monitoring this conversation from my station, and I remember thinking, this human is insane. Genuinely insane. There is no other explanation. But there was something about his conviction, his absolute refusal to acknowledge reality, that was almost admirable, in a stupid, suicidal kind of way. The morning of his first fight arrived. I was assigned to escort him to the preparation chambers, which was standard protocol. When I opened his cell, he was doing push-ups, like he was getting ready for a sporting event. Morning, Vrock. He hopped to his feet, breathing hard. Big day today. I am actually pretty nervous, not going to lie. But also excited. Is that weird? That is probably weird. Put your hands out. I attached the restraints, noting that his hands were shaking slightly. So he was not completely fearless. Good. Maybe he had some survival instinct after all. We walked through the corridors toward the arena. Other prisoners watched from their cells, some jeering, some silent. Jake waved at them, actually waved, like a politician on a campaign trail. You are going to fight a razorwing, I told him as we descended the stairs. It will be released from the north gate. You will enter from the south. The match continues until one combatant is dead or incapacitated. Quick question. When you say incapacitated, how incapacitated are we talking? Like missing a limb incapacitated or unconscious incapacitated? Does it matter? I mean, I would prefer to keep all my limbs if possible. I am kind of attached to them. Get it? Attached? Dodged? I did not laugh. I never laugh. But internally I may have found it slightly amusing. Maybe? We reached the preparation chamber, where the equipment master, a grumpy old Valorian named Kess, looked Jake up and down with obvious disdain. Another soft one, Kess muttered. Why do they keep sending me soft ones? He shoved a bundle of gear at Jake. Light armor, chest plate, arm guards, leg guards, blade. Standard issue. Try not to drop it immediately. Jake examined the equipment with surprising thoroughness. The armor was basic, composite materials designed to stop light impacts, but nothing more. The blade was about 1/2 meter long, straight edge, standard grip. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would save him against a razor wing. How is the balance on this? Jake asked, testing the weight of the blade. Kess blinked. What? The balance. Center of mass. Is it blade heavy or handle heavy? Jake was turning the weapon over in his hands, making small practice movements. It is adequate. Why do you care? Because if I am going to die holding this thing, I would like to at least look competent doing it. Jake strapped on the armor with practiced efficiency. He had done this before, I realized. Maybe not with alien equipment, but he knew how to gear up for a fight. You have combat training, I said. It was not a question. 3 years in the Marines, back on Earth, infantry. Did a tour in the Syrian desert conflicts, another in the Amazon peacekeeping zone. I have been shot at by humans, which, let me tell you, is terrifying because humans are creative when it comes to violence. He finished strapping the leg guards and stood, testing his range of motion. This armor is lighter than I expected. It will not save you, Kess said bluntly. Yeah, I am getting that impression. Jake took a deep breath, rolling his shoulders. Okay, I can do this. Probably. Maybe. We will find out. The announcement system crackled to life. Combatant 7439, report to South Gate. Match begins in 5 minutes. This was it. The moment of truth. I escorted Jake to the gate, which was a massive reinforced door that would lift when the match started. Beyond it, I could hear the crowd. Thousands of them, aliens from dozens of species, all here to watch violence and death. The roar was deafening. Jake stopped at the gate, taking deep breaths. His hands were definitely shaking now. But he still had that grin, smaller now but present. Hey, Vrock, he said without looking at me. Yes? Thanks for being decent to me. Most of the guards treat us like we are already dead. You, though, you actually talk to us like we are people. That means something. I did not know what to say to that. So I said nothing. If I die out there, Jake continued, which, you know, high probability, tell Grant I said he should keep fighting. Tell him every victory matters, even the small ones. Can you do that? Yes, I will tell him. Cool. Jake nodded, more to himself than to me. Cool. All right, let us do this. The gate began to rise with a mechanical groan. Light flooded in from the arena floor, along with the deafening sound of the crowd. I could see the sandy floor, stained dark in places where countless fighters had bled out. And across the arena, the north gate was opening too. The razor wing emerged, and oh, it was magnificent. 4 meters of pure predatory perfection. Silvery feathers that looked more like blades. Eyes that tracked movement with terrifying precision. Talons that scraped against the stone floor, leaving gouges. It saw Jake immediately and let out a shriek that made my scales stand on end. Jake walked into the arena, blade held low, and the gate sealed behind him. The crowd went wild. The announcer, some Throxian with a voice that could shatter glass, was providing commentary. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a special treat. A human. Yes, you heard that correctly. One of those peculiar little primates from the Orion Spur. Let us see how long he lasts against our beautiful razor wing. The crowd laughed. They always laughed at the weak ones. The razorwing circled, assessing its prey. Jake mirrored its movement, staying light on his feet, blade up now in a defensive position. He was talking, I realized. I could not hear what he was saying, but his mouth was moving. Talking to himself? To the bird? To the universe? Then the razorwing attacked. It moved like lightning, closing the distance in 3 massive bounds, talons extended, beak open. Most fighters would have frozen. Most fighters would have died right there, torn apart in the first 5 seconds. Jake dropped and rolled. The razorwing sailed over him, missing by centimeters, and Jake came up slashing. The blade caught the creature's left leg, drawing first blood. Not deep, barely a scratch really, but blood nonetheless. The crowd gasped. Not because it was impressive, but because it was unexpected. The human had landed a hit. The razorwing was angry now. It spun, faster than something that large should be able to move, and caught Jake with its wing. He went flying, tumbling across the sand, armor sparking from the impact. He should have stayed down. That hit should have broken ribs, punctured organs. But he got up. The crowd went quiet. Even the announcer stopped talking for a moment. Jake stood, breathing hard, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. But he was standing, and he was smiling. That infuriating, impossible smile. "Is that all you got?" Jake shouted at the razorwing. "Come on. I have been hit harder by my drill sergeant." The razorwing charged again. And for the next 15 minutes I watched something I had never seen before in 17 cycles of working at the Crimson Pits. I watched a human refuse to die. 15 minutes. That does not sound like a long time, does it? But in the arena, 15 minutes is an eternity. Most fights last under 3 minutes. 5 if the fighter is exceptionally skilled or exceptionally lucky. 10 if they are both and the creature they are facing is particularly sadistic, playing with its food. But 15 minutes of continuous combat? Unheard of. And Jake was not winning. Let me be clear about that. He was surviving. There is a massive difference. The razorwing landed hits. Lots of them. His armor was shredded in places. Blood ran down his left arm from a deep gash. His right leg was definitely injured, probably torn muscles, judging by the way he favored it. But every time the razorwing knocked him down, every single time, he got back up. And he kept talking. "You know what your problem is?" Jake shouted, ducking under another talon swipe. "You rely too much on your natural advantages. No strategy. No finesse. You are just big and scary and fast." The razorwing did not understand human speech, obviously. But it understood defiance. It shrieked again, that ear-splitting sound that usually paralyzed prey with fear. Jake just laughed. Yeah, I hear you. Very intimidating. 10 out of 10 for effort." He was studying it, I realized. Every attack, every movement, Jake was learning, watching the patterns. The razorwing favored its right side after that initial cut to its left leg. It always lunged with its talons first, beak second. It had a tell before it used its wings for balance, a slight dip of its head. And Jake was using this information. When the razorwing lunged again, Jake did not roll away. He rolled toward it, inside its guard, and drove his blade up into the soft tissue under its wing joint. The creature screamed, not in rage but in pain, and Jake was already moving, scrambling away before it could retaliate. Second blood. Deeper this time. The crowd was on their feet now, all of them. Even the most jaded spectators who had seen thousands of matches were paying attention, because this was not supposed to happen. Humans were weak. Everyone knew this. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced healing. They were prey species at best, curiosities at worst. But here was one, bloodied and battered and clearly outmatched, making a razorwing bleed. I found myself leaning forward, my claws gripping the railing of the observation deck. Kess was next to me, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "He should be dead," Kess whispered. Why is he not dead? I have no idea, I admitted. None whatsoever. The razorwing was getting desperate now, attacking with less precision and more fury. It wanted this infuriating little creature dead. It needed it dead. Its pride demanded it. But desperation makes you sloppy. Jake saw the opening. The razorwing committed too hard to a charge, overextended, and Jake did something I will never forget. He threw his blade, just chucked it like a spear, end over end, and it caught the razorwing right in its left eye. The creature reared back, shrieking, clawing at its own face. And Jake ran, not away but toward it. He leaped, actually leaped, grabbed onto the razorwing's neck feathers and climbed. "What is he doing?" Kes shouted. "What is he doing?" Jake reached the blade, still embedded in the creature's eye socket, and yanked it free. Then, using both hands, he drove it down into the back of the razorwing's skull, right at the base where the spine met the brain. The razorwing stopped moving instantly. Just collapsed, 4 meters of apex predator crashing to the arena floor with Jake still on top of it. Silence. Ew. Complete and total silence. 20,000 spectators, not a single sound. Jake slid off the corpse, landed hard, and immediately fell to one knee. He was spent, completely exhausted, blood dripping from multiple wounds, armor hanging in tatters. He looked up at the crowd, raised his blade in a shaky salute, and then he said something that the arena microphones barely caught. Holy hell, I cannot believe that actually worked. The crowd exploded. I mean, absolutely lost their minds, cheering, roaring, stomping their feet so hard the entire structure shook. Not because they wanted him to win, but because they had just witnessed something impossible become possible. The announcer was scrambling to regain control. The human has won. Unbelievable. Unprecedented. What a match. I activated my comm unit to the medical team. Get down there. Now. The human needs immediate attention. They rushed out, a team of 3, and practically carried Jake off the arena floor. I met them at the south gate, watching as they loaded him onto a med gurney. He was conscious, but barely, eyes unfocused, breathing ragged. "Hey, Vrock," he mumbled as they wheeled him past me. "Did you see that? Did you see? I totally got him. Right in the brain stem. Just like hunting deer back home. You find the kill spot and you commit. Save your strength, human. You need medical treatment." Did I win, though? Like officially? Because that counts as a win, right? "Yes, Jake, you won. Sweet." And then he passed out. The medical bay was chaos. The staff was not used to treating humans. They had no baseline data for his species. They had to extrapolate from general mammalian physiology and hope for the best. 17 lacerations, 2 cracked ribs, severe bruising across his entire torso, torn ligaments in his right leg, possible concussion, and significant blood loss. Any other species would have been dead or permanently disabled. Jake was awake 6 hours later asking for food. "I am starving," he announced to the medical technician, a timid Vrelian named Pip. "Do you guys have anything like pizza? Or a burger?" I would commit crimes for a burger right now. Oh wait, I already did that. Never mind. Pip stared at him with all 3 eyes. "You should not be conscious. Your injuries are severe." "Yeah, I feel like I got hit by a truck. But I am hungry. Humans get hungry after trauma. It is a thing. Something about our metabolism going into overdrive to heal. Can I get some protein? Carbs? Literally anything edible?" They brought him some kind of nutrient paste, which he ate without complaint, though he did mention it tasted like cardboard mixed with sadness. The head physician, Dr. Quilmex, ran every scan imaginable. "It's fascinating," Quilmex muttered, studying the results. "Your cellular regeneration rate is approximately 40% faster than projected. Your pain tolerance is absurdly high. And your mental state is, well, inexplicably optimistic given the circumstances." Yeah, humans are weird like that, Jake said through a mouthful of paste. We are stubborn. Really, really stubborn. Evolution made us endurance hunters, so we just kind of refuse to quit, even when we should. Endurance hunters? Quilmex tilted his head. Back on Earth, before we invented weapons, we used to hunt by just chasing animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We are not fast, but we do not stop. We just keep coming. Like the galaxy's most annoying predator. That is horrifying. Yeah, our prey thought so too. Word spread through the facility fast, but the human had won. Not just survived, won against a razorwing no less. Suddenly everyone wanted to see him. Guards, staff, even other prisoners were asking about him. Betting pools that had written him off at 1,000-to-1 odds were now re-evaluating. When they returned Jake to his cell 3 days later, still limping but mobile, Grant was waiting. Human, the old Boldnar rumbled. You live. Grant. My man. Yeah, I live. Barely, but I will take it. Jake collapsed onto his sleeping platform with a groan. Everything hurts. Like everything. I discovered muscles I did not know I had because they all hurt now. You fought well. I watched from my cell. The Razorwing should have killed you in seconds. Probably. But I have this problem where I do not know when to quit. My mom always said it would get me killed someday. Turns out she might have been right, just taking longer than expected. You have 9 more fights. The reality of that statement hung in the air. 9 more fights. 9 more times Jake would have to step into that arena and face death. The odds of winning 10 consecutive matches were astronomical. 4 fighters in 2 centuries. 4. Yeah, Jake said quietly. 9 more. But hey, I got through one, right? That is better than 0. What will you face next? No idea. Hopefully something smaller. Maybe something cute and fluffy that just wants to cuddle me to death. I could work with that. Grant made a sound that might have been a laugh. They will send worse. The crowd expects escalation. Each fight must be more challenging than the last. Of course they will. Why would they make it easy? Jake stared at the ceiling of his cell. You know what the funny thing is? I did not even mean to end up here. The whole diplomat punching thing was an accident. Well, not an accident. I definitely meant to punch him. But I was drunk and he was being incredibly rude to the waitstaff and I just lost my temper. And then everything spiraled. You regret it? Oh, absolutely. Worst decision of my life, hands down. But here we are, so I might as well make the best of it, right? That is the human way. We mess up, we face the consequences, and we try to survive with some dignity intact. Over the next 2 weeks, Jake fought 3 more times. Fight 2 was against a blade worm, one of those massive serpentine creatures covered in razor-sharp scales. Jake won by luring it into repeatedly striking the arena walls until it was disoriented, then exploiting its poor vision by attacking from above. He used the corpse of the Razorwing, which was still displayed in the arena as a trophy, as a climbing platform. Clever. Brutal. Effective. Fight 3 was a pair of Scorch hounds, genetically modified canines that breathed fire. Actual fire. Jake spent that entire match running, dodging, and slowly exhausting them. When they finally collapsed from overheating their own internal systems, he finished them quickly. He limped away from that fight with second-degree burns on his back and arms, but alive. Fight 4 was against a veteran fighter, a Throxian named Krell, who had won 6 consecutive matches. This was different. This was not a beast but an intelligent opponent with training and strategy. The fight lasted 8 minutes, which was an eternity. They circled each other, probing for weaknesses, trading blows. Krell was stronger, faster, more experienced. But Jake was creative. He feinted left, went right, threw sand in Krell's eyes, and when the Throxian stumbled, Jake swept his legs and drove his blade through the gap in Krell's armor at the throat. It was not honorable. It was not pretty. It worked. 4 wins. 4. The facility was buzzing with speculation. Could he actually do it? Could a human actually win 10 consecutive matches? The betting pools were going insane. Jake's odds had improved to 50-1. Still long, but not impossible. People were starting to believe. Not everyone, not even most, but enough. I visited Jake in his cell after the fourth fight. He was sitting cross-legged on his sleeping platform, cleaning his blade with a scrap of cloth. His body was a patchwork of healing wounds, scars layering over scars. "Hey, Vrock," he said without looking up. "Come to check on your favorite human? You are the only human in this facility. Still counts." He inspected the blade edge, frowning at a small chip in the metal. "This thing is falling apart. You think Kess would give me a new one?" "No. Equipment is standardized. No exceptions. Worth asking." Jake set the blade aside and looked at me, really looked at me, with those unsettling blue eyes. "Can I ask you something? And I want an honest answer." "I will try. Do you think I can win? All 10 fights?" I considered lying. It would have been kinder. But he asked for honesty, so I gave it to him. "No," I said. "The statistical probability is infinitesimal. Each fight is exponentially more difficult than the last. Fight 5 typically involves multiple opponents or a Tier 3 predator. Fight 7 usually includes environmental hazards. Fight 9 and 10 are against champions, fighters who have survived their own death matches and volunteered to return for glory and credits." Jake nodded slowly. "So I am probably going to die?" "Yes. Yes, but not definitely. Nothing is definite." "Then I will take probably." He smiled, that same impossible smile. "Because probably is not certainly, and as long as there is a gap between those two words, I have a chance." "You are insane." "Yeah, I get that a lot." He lay back on his platform, staring at the ceiling again. "You know what I think about? When I am in that arena, bleeding and scared and pretty sure I am about to die, I think about my sister. Her name is Emma. She would be 28 now. We grew up together, fought constantly, drove our parents crazy. But we loved each other, you know. I do not have siblings. She is the reason I joined the Marines. I wanted to make her proud, show her I could be responsible. And then I went and threw it all away by punching a diplomat and peeing in a fountain." He laughed. "But it was bitter. She is probably so disappointed in me. But if I win, if I actually make it through all 10 fights, then maybe it was not all for nothing. Maybe I can go home and tell her I survived the impossible. That would be something, right?" "That would be something," I agreed quietly. Fight 5 happened 3 days later. 3 opponents, all at once. A ripper beetle, a venom spine cobra, and a stalk cat. Different attack patterns, different strategies, designed to overwhelm through sheer variety. Jake nearly died in the first 30 seconds. The ripper beetle charged while the cobra struck from the side and the stalk cat flanked from behind. Perfect coordination, textbook multi-predator assault. Jake took a glancing blow from the beetle that sent him sprawling, and the cobra's fangs missed his neck by centimeters. But then something changed. The predators turned on each other. The beetle saw the cobra as competition. The stalk cat saw the beetle as a threat. And in the chaos of 3 apex predators fighting for dominance, Jake became invisible. He used their aggression against them, staying on the periphery, letting them injure each other. When the beetle killed the cobra, Jake killed the beetle. When the stalk cat was distracted feeding on the beetle's corpse, Jake killed the stalk cat. 5 wins, halfway there. The crowd was no longer laughing. They were invested now, genuinely invested. Jake had become a phenomenon. A story of the human who refused to die. Vendors were selling merchandise with his face on it. Children were imitating his fighting style in the streets. It was absurd. But the administration was not happy. I overheard a conversation between Warden Thross and Arena Master Vilk 2 days before Fight 6. They were in Thross's office, and I was passing by when I heard Jake's name mentioned. I stopped, yes, to eavesdrop. Judge me if you want. This human is becoming a problem, Thross said, his voice sharp. People are sympathizing with him. They are supposed to want him dead, not root for him. What do you suggest? Vilk replied. He has won 5 consecutive matches fairly. By law, if he reaches 10, we must release him. I know the law. But there is no law saying we have to make it easy. Fight 6. I want you to use the Dreadmaw. Silence. Then Vilk said, the Dreadmaw has never been defeated. Not once. It has a perfect kill record of 43 fighters. Exactly. That seems excessive. The human has embarrassed us long enough. End this. I should have stayed quiet. I should have walked away. It was not my place to interfere, but I found myself knocking on Thross's door anyway. What? Thross barked. I entered, keeping my expression neutral. Warden, I could not help but overhear. Using the Dreadmaw against a fighter at the 6-win mark is unprecedented. The protocol is Tier 2 Predators until Fight 8. Thross's eyes narrowed. Since when do you question my decisions, Vrock? I am not questioning, Warden. I am merely stating the established protocol. Protocols can be adjusted. Or do you have some personal investment in the human's survival? I met his gaze. I simply believe in fairness, Warden. If we deviate from established rules, it undermines the integrity of the pits. Noted. Your objection is recorded. Now get out. I left, knowing I had just made things worse for myself, possibly worse for Jake too. But I had to try. Because the Dreadmaw was not just dangerous, it was legendary. A creature so vicious, so unstoppable, that even Grimlocks feared it. I went to Jake's cell that night. He was exercising, doing push-ups despite his injuries, because of course he was. Jake, I said through the comm, your next fight is tomorrow. Yeah, I know. Fight 6. The halfway point. After this, I am closer to freedom than death, numerically speaking. He stood, breathing hard. What am I facing? The Dreadmaw. He froze. I do not know that one. Is it bad? It has killed 43 fighters. It has never been defeated. It is, Jake. It is the worst possible opponent you could face. Oh, he processed this information, then nodded. Okay, so worst case scenario. Got it. Is there anything I should know? Weaknesses? Patterns? It has no weaknesses. It is 4 meters tall, 8 meters long, armored hide that can deflect most blades, claws that can rend steel, jaws that can bite through reinforced concrete. It is intelligent, patient, and sadistic. Fantastic. Love that for me. Jake sat on his platform, head in his hands. Any survivors? Anyone who fought it, and lived long enough to share intel. No, it always kills. Well, there is a first time for everything, right? He looked up, and I saw genuine fear in his eyes for the first time. But underneath that fear, still impossibly hope. I have made it this far. One more fight. Just one more, and I am over the halfway point. Jake, you need to understand. This is not like the others. The administration wants you dead. They stacked the odds against you. Why? What did I do except survive? You gave people hope. You made them think the system could be beaten. That is dangerous. He laughed, sharp and bitter. Hope is dangerous. Yeah, that sounds about right. Humans have this saying, you know? Hope is the thing with feathers. A poet named Emily Dickinson wrote it. Hope is this fragile, tiny thing that lives inside us, but it never asks for anything except to exist. And it keeps us warm even in the coldest, darkest times. That is beautiful. Yeah, it is. Jake stood, walked to the viewport, and looked out at the empty arena. I am scared, Vrock. I am really, really scared. But I am going in there anyway. Because what else can I do? Give up? Lie down and die? That is not who I am. That is not who humans are. I wish you luck, Jake. Truly. Thanks. I am going to need it. Fight 6 began at noon the next day. The arena was packed beyond capacity. Word had spread about the Dreadmaw, and everyone wanted to witness the end of the humans' impossible run. Jake entered through the south gate, armor repaired as best as possible, new blade in hand. He looked so small standing in that vast arena, dwarfed by the architecture, by the crowd, by the weight of expectation. The north gate opened. The Dreadmaw emerged. And I understood, in that moment, why it had never been defeated. It was not just big or strong or fast. It was wrong. Something about its proportions, its movement, the way its 6 eyes tracked independently, all screamed predator on a fundamental, instinctual level. The crowd went silent. Even they were afraid of it. Jake raised his blade and charged. Not away. Toward it. He ran straight at the Dreadmaw, screaming, and I realized what he was doing. He was not trying to win. He was trying to go out on his terms with defiance instead of fear. The Dreadmaw swiped at him, claws extended. Jake slid under it, between its legs, and slashed upward at its underbelly. The blade bounced off armored hide without leaving a mark. Then Jake did something that made no sense. He climbed onto its back. The Dreadmaw bucked and thrashed, trying to shake him off, but Jake held on, clinging to the bony protrusions along its spine. It was like watching someone ride a living earthquake. He climbed higher toward its head, and the Dreadmaw slammed itself against the arena wall, trying to crush him. Jake jumped off just before impact, rolled, came up running. The Dreadmaw turned faster than something that size should move, and Jake threw his blade. It hit one of the creature's 6 eyes, the bottom left, and stuck. The Dreadmaw roared, a sound that shook dust from the ceiling, and charged blindly. Jake dodged, barely, and the creature crashed into the wall, momentarily stunned. Jake ran back, grabbed his blade from the ruined eye, and stabbed again. Same eye socket, deeper this time, angling up toward the brain. The Dreadmaw convulsed once, twice, and then collapsed. Dead. The impossible had happened again. The crowd erupted, louder than I had ever heard them. Jake stood on top of the Dreadmaw's corpse, blade raised, covered in its black blood, and he screamed victory to the heavens. 6 wins. Des. 6. I could not believe it. Kess could not believe it. Nobody could believe it. The human had just killed the unkillable. When they brought Jake to medical, he was laughing hysterically. Not from joy, I think, but from shock. From the sheer impossibility of still being alive. I have no idea how that worked, he kept saying. I got lucky. The eye socket was weaker than the hide and I got so lucky. But it was not just luck. I had watched the fight. Jake had targeted that specific eye deliberately, recognizing that the Dreadmaw relied on binocular vision from its upper eyes for depth perception. By removing a lower eye, he disrupted its spatial awareness just enough to create an opening. Luck and skill combined, and the human combination. 4 more fights remained. 4 more chances to fail, but also 4 more chances to succeed. And for the first time in 17 cycles of working at the Crimson Pits, I found myself genuinely hoping a prisoner would make it. Because if Jake could win 10, if this fragile human from Earth could survive the impossible, then maybe, just maybe, hope was not such a dangerous thing after all. Maybe it was necessary. The final 4 fights passed in a blur of violence and near-death experiences. Fight 7 against a Electro Drake in an arena flooded with water. Fight 8 against 5 coordinated Razor Raptors. Fight 9 against a champion named Dulrix the Breaker, a Grimlock who had voluntarily returned for glory. Jake won them all. Not easily. Not cleanly. Fight 8 left him with a severed finger. Fight 9 broke his jaw and 3 ribs. But he won. And then came Fight 10. The final fight. The fight for freedom. His opponent was announced as Corvin the Undying, a champion with 12 previous arena victories who had never been defeated. A Valorian battle master, trained from birth in combat, with reflexes enhanced by genetic modification and decades of experience. The entire galaxy, it seemed, was watching. The viewing numbers were unprecedented. This was history, one way or another. Jake walked into the arena for the 10th time, battered but unbroken. Corvin stood across from him, twice his size, radiating confidence. The fight began, and it was beautiful in its brutality. Corvin was everything Jake was not: powerful, precise, trained. He should have ended it in seconds, but Jake had learned. 10 fights had taught him things that training never could. He knew how to read opponents, how to exploit weaknesses, how to turn disadvantages into opportunities. He knew how to take damage and keep moving. He knew how to survive. The match lasted 17 minutes, the longest fight in Crimson Pit's history. They traded blows, neither giving ground. Corvin had skill, Jake had desperation. Corvin had strength, Jake had stubbornness. In the end, it came down to one moment, one opening. Corvin overcommitted to a strike, confident it would end things. Jake took the hit, let it impale his shoulder, and used the moment to drive his blade up through Corvin's chin into his brain. They fell together, fighter and champion, locked in a final embrace. The medical team rushed out. For a moment, nobody knew who had won, if anyone had. Both fighters were down. Both were motionless. Then Jake moved. He pushed Corvin's body off him, stood on shaking legs, and raised his one good arm in victory. The crowd lost their minds. 10 wins. 10 consecutive victories. Against all odds, against impossible opponents, a human had done what only 4 fighters before him had accomplished. Jake had earned his freedom. They brought him to medical, stabilized him, removed the blade from his shoulder, and began the long process of patching him back together. I was there when Warden Thross came to deliver the official news. "Congratulations, Specimen 7439, Thross said, his voice tight with suppressed anger. "You have fulfilled the conditions of your sentence. You will be released immediately upon medical clearance." Jake, heavily medicated and barely conscious, managed a weak smile. "Call me Jake. My name is Jake." "You have brought shame to this facility," Thross continued. "But the law is the law. You are free." After Thross left, Jake looked at me with unfocused eyes. "I actually did it. I cannot believe I actually did it. Neither can anyone else." "What happens now?" "Now you heal. Then you leave. Go anywhere in the galaxy you want. Your record is expunged. I think I will go home. Back to Earth. See my sister. Tell her about all this. She probably will not believe me." He paused. "Will you remember me, Vrok? After I am gone?" "Jake, the entire galaxy will remember you. You proved something important today. You proved that it does not matter how strong you are or where you come from. What matters is that you refuse to quit." "Yeah," he closed his eyes, exhausted. "Yeah, that sounds about right." 3 weeks later, I stood at the departure gate and watched Jake board a transport ship bound for Earth. He was still healing, still limping, but alive, free. Before he left, he turned back and waved at me. That same ridiculous wave from the first day, full of inexplicable optimism. I waved back. And as I watched his ship disappear into the stars, I thought about hope, about that fragile thing with feathers, about how a species of soft, weak, stubborn primates had taken that hope and turned it into a weapon more powerful than claws or fangs or armor. Humans, I decided, were terrifying precisely because they refused to acknowledge when they should be afraid. And the galaxy would never be quite the same now that it knew what they were capable of. I returned to my duties, to the endless cycle of prisoners and matches and death. But something had changed. I had changed. Because I had seen the impossible happen, and now I could not unsee it. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear Jake's voice echoing through the corridors, singing, laughing, refusing to give up. And I smile. Because if a human can survive the Crimson Pits, then maybe, just maybe, anything is possible.